My reflection smiled at me before I did. I was standing in the employee bathroom with both hands gripping the sink, staring at the mirror, and for maybe half a second, the man in the glass looked relieved before my own face even moved. Then he slowly lifted his hand toward the mirror, while mine was still frozen on the porcelain. I stumbled backward so hard I hit the stall door behind me, because the building was locked, the office was empty, and I was supposed to be the only person on that floor. Then my reflection mouthed 3 words I never said. "You look tired." My name is Daniel Mercer. I was 31 then, working overnight security in a corporate office building just outside Denver. It was one of those 6-story glass buildings that looked impressive in daylight and felt dead the second everyone went home. My shift started at 11 at night and ended at 7 in the morning. Most of it was routine: badge doors, empty conference rooms, motion alerts from cleaning crews, the kind of job where the silence gets loud enough that you start noticing every sound the building makes when nobody else is inside. That night had felt wrong before the bathroom. Not dramatic, just wrong in small ways that kept stacking up. The lobby camera on the second floor had gone black for 12 seconds at exactly 1:17. The west stairwell door showed open on my tablet, even though I had just checked it. And twice while walking the 3rd floor, I heard footsteps stop the second I stopped walking. At first I blamed exhaustion because I had pulled 3 extra shifts that week and barely slept. That was the excuse I kept using, right up until I saw my own face move on its own. I just stood there staring into that mirror, trying to convince myself fluorescent lights could mess with depth perception. My breathing sounded too loud in that little tiled room. The bathroom smelled like industrial soap and wet paper towels. I leaned forward again slowly, watching the man in the glass. This time he copied me perfectly. Same blink, same swallow, same shaky breath. For a second, I almost laughed at myself because once fear gets into your head, your brain starts helping it. Then the overhead light flickered once, just once, and my reflection did not blink when I did. I froze. I know how insane that sounds, but I remember it clearly because blinking is automatic. Mine happened, his didn't. The eyes in the mirror stayed open, staring directly into mine, like he was waiting for me to notice. And the light steadied, and suddenly he matched me again. I backed out of that bathroom so fast I nearly forgot my flashlight on the sink. In the hallway, the normal office sounds came rushing back, the low hum of the air system, the distant rattle of ductwork, my radio crackling softly on my shoulder. Familiar sounds, real sounds. I told myself that was all it was. Stress, too much caffeine, too many overnight shifts. But that's when I noticed something worse. My radio showed an outgoing transmission. I hadn't touched it. I grabbed it off my shoulder and looked at the tiny screen. It showed a 3-second call sent to channel 1. Name security. Daniel, a voice suddenly said through the speaker. It was my supervisor, Grant, from the remote desk downstairs. "You trying to call me?" My mouth had gone dry. "No," I said. "Did you hear anything?" There was a pause. Thought I heard breathing. I looked back toward the bathroom. The door was still half open. The light inside buzzed softly. "Can you check cameras on 4?" I asked. Bathroom hall. More silence. Then Grant said, "You're standing alone. I know that." "No," he said, slower this time. "I mean the hall camera only shows you." I waited. What's that supposed to mean? Another pause. "The mirror in the bathroom," he said quietly. "It should be visible from that angle." My stomach dropped. "And?" He didn't answer right away. "And there's somebody standing in it." I turned so fast my shoulder slammed into the wall. The bathroom door was still open. From where I stood, I could see the edge of the mirror over the sink. And in that mirror, someone was standing in the doorway. Me, facing into the bathroom. But I was standing in the hallway facing the mirror. For one impossible second, the version of me in the reflection was still inside that room. Then it stepped sideways out of view. I don't remember deciding to run. I just remember being at the security desk on the 1st floor a few seconds later. breathing hard, trying to explain something I already knew sounded impossible. Grant came up from the basement control room after hearing me over the radio. He was in his 50s, ex-military, not the kind of man who spooked easily. He listened without interrupting, then watched the playback from the fourth-floor hall camera. I stood beside him while he rewound the footage. On screen, I walked into the bathroom at 1:26, seconds 43. Seconds later, I stumbled backward out of the room. But just before I came out, something moved behind the mirror. Not a shadow, not bad footage, a person-shaped movement. Grant replayed it 3 times. Neither of us said anything. Finally, he cleared his throat. Probably a reflection glitch. Of what? I asked. He didn't answer. Instead, he stood up and said we'd check it together. We took the service elevator back up. The ride felt longer than it should have. Neither of us talked. When the doors opened on 4, the whole floor was darker than before. Half the overhead lights had shut off automatically, leaving long strips of shadow between cubicles. Grant went first with his flashlight raised. We walked to the low bathroom slowly, and even before we reached the door, I could hear something inside. A soft tapping, steady, like a fingernail hitting glass. Grant heard it too because he stopped mid-step and looked back at me. Tap, tap, tap. Coming from inside the bathroom. He pushed the door open. The room was empty, no one behind the stalls, no one under the sink, just the mirror above the counter. The tapping stopped the second the door opened. Grant checked every stall while I stood staring at the sink. Then I noticed water dripping from the faucet. A thin stream running even though I knew I hadn't turned it on. "Daniel," Grant said quietly. "Come here." He was standing by the far stall. On the inside of the closed stall door, written in moisture across the metal, was my name. Daniel, like someone had traced it with a wet finger from the inside. Grant stared at it for a long second before forcing a laugh that sounded fake even to him. "Cleaning crew messing around. At 1:30 in the morning?" I said. He didn't answer. Instead, he stepped toward the sink and looked into the mirror. Then he went completely still. "What?" I asked. He kept staring. "Did you already leave?" he said. I felt cold all over. "I'm right here." "No." His voice dropped. "In the mirror." I looked up. My reflection was standing beside it, but his reflection was alone. He turned toward me so fast he almost slipped. Then he looked back. Now both reflections were there, matching us perfectly. Grant stepped back from the sink. "We're done," he said. "We're going downstairs." We left the bathroom and walked fast toward the elevator. Halfway there, the radio on my shoulder clicked on by itself again. Then my own voice came through. Calm, clear. "Don't leave me up here." Grant heard it. I know he did because he stopped walking. The radio hissed again. "Daniel." Then softer. "Come back." Grant pulled the radio off my shoulder and switched it off. We both heard it again anyway, this time from the speaker in the ceiling above us. "Come back." We ran for the elevator. By the time we got downstairs, both of us were shaken enough that Grant called building management and asked them to review the server logs. He wanted proof the intercom system had malfunctioned. Something technical, something normal. The manager arrived at 6 in the morning and checked everything personally. The radio logs showed no transmissions from my unit. The intercom system showed no use. No audio routed to floor 4 at all. But one thing did show up. At 1:26 seconds, the exact minute I entered that bathroom, my employee badge was recorded entering the fourth-floor restroom twice, 4 seconds apart. Same badge, same door, like I had walked in 2 times. I quit that morning. Grant put in his notice 2 days later without saying why. For months, I told myself, sleep deprivation can make people see things. Stress can distort memory. Buildings can glitch. Cameras can misread. Mirrors can play tricks. I repeated that enough that part of me almost believed it. Then 6 weeks later, I got a padded envelope in the mail with no return address. Inside was a printed still frame from the fourth-floor hall camera. Timestamp 1:27 a.m. It showed me standing outside the bathroom door, staring inside. And in the mirror behind the sink, I was still standing there, watching myself leave.